we interrupt this program to bring you courage, 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 courage!
Breaking the line of the 1900s to 2000s was a very special time for Western animation. Children's shows did not have the type of censorship that they do now, so many directors were free to have a more open and wide range of creativity options. While this went for all children networks, many of the more edgy shows aired on Cartoon Network and Boomerang. These consisted of shows like Ed, Edd and Eddy, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, Dexter's Laboratory, and Space Ghost Coast to Coast. This time was also a very notorious moment for video game development, with consoles like N64, PlayStation, and Xbox all being released relatively around this time. Game developers had tools to stretch their capabilities and test what worked. That's why we had a time frame where many movies and franchises received video game ports. Yes, even Burger King had an actually pretty entertaining game. So with all this mess of games based off children's shows, what did Courage the Cowardly Dog get? I mean, it doesn't take much to realize that this show would make for a great game. Every episode introduced a new location with unique and memorable characters. Well, this apparently wasn't enough, as Courage got pretty much nothing. He received a few cameos and a couple cheap browser games, but no actual game. At least, none that got released. That brings us to the topic of our video. Recently, the files of a supposed cancelled PS1 Courage the Cowardly Dog video game got uncovered and developed to be portable and playable on PC. Now, take a look at the title of this video. See how there's quotes around the word cancelled? Well, that's because while there is no proof that this leak isn't real, it's safe to say that there was no supposed plan for a PS1 Courage game. I don't want to clickbait you and reveal at the very end that this is all fake. It's not, as there is a real ported game you can play, but the story behind the validity of this game is questionable. The story they use is purposefully cliche, as I feel the art behind this game is to give players the feeling that they would have if a creepypasta was real. Made by Neither Nathan and Chico Games, the description is as follows. This game was originally found in an old hard drive I bought at a yard sale. Didn't ask too much about it because I needed old and damaged electronics to run some tests. Upon checking its contents, I found files of a PS1 game project, and when I opened them, I found this game. Then me and Cisco Cookies, Chico Games, started working on a way to turn this into a playable game, trying our best to use the majority of the files we could, so it could wind up being a cohesive experience for this vaporware game. The game starts with acknowledging that the game has levels that are accessible, but the creators are unsure how to access them. They mention that they were able to put data missing screens from the files in their place, and they will let the itch.io forums know of any new discoveries. We get brought to the start screen and proceed to start a new game. Spawning in the middle of the famous Bags household, we are free to run around and jump as Courage, with upbeat music filling the background. There is no way to open any door except the one on the far right of the second floor. This leads to the famous computer room that has made multiple appearances time and time again on the show. The computer is interactable, but nothing happens once you click it. While leaving this room and returning to the spawn, you will find something a little bit different.
Stupid dog!
The entire room is filled with an eerie red glow, and it's obvious that something is off. The only interactable is the door that leads to the kitchen, but trying to enter simply brings the room back to its original state. From here, there is no other option but to return to the computer room. Upon entering, we get greeted by a cameo of one of Courage the Cowardly Dog's most memorable characters. That's right, this isn't meant to be a scary addition to those who aren't familiar with Courage. This realistic apparition made its debut in the episode Spirit of the Harvest Moon.
You have grown more than a plant.
His head follows you wherever you move, and choosing to interact with him finally gives this game some direction. You are prompted to find all three. I said some direction, not a lot of direction, but I guess beggars can't be choosers. You exit this room and leave out the front door. Upon leaving, the music stops and is replaced with mostly silent and static ambient noise. You find yourself in a corridor with dark black walls that enclose every corner. You find it interactable at the start, but choosing to select it only plays a low, failure-type sound. From this point on, the game starts to take a very interesting turn. Walking down the hall, you will find that the room opens up to a circle of chairs. At first, it seems that the symbol in the middle may be a pentagram, but you soon realize it's a puzzle. Following the line and interacting with each chair it passes will solve the puzzle and move you to the next stage in the game. Now, from this point on, the game branches into 3 different stories. So right here will act as a checkpoint that we can return to. So let's see branch 1. I immediately decided to check the walls of the enclosure. It seemed too empty for there to have been nothing. The penguin skit from Mario 64 taught me to always check for these things. Upon checking the walls, they all appear solid until I begin to hear the noise of birds chirping. I'm not sure if there's some hidden meaning behind this audio cue, but I do know it only happens here. My suspicions were right, as there was a wall I could walk through, but my ambitious side jumped the gun and I ran off the edge. I fell until my game crashed. Although I had to restart, I was excited to see what my discovery led to, but I would never get the chance. When loading a new save, I was sent to the Baggs household, as expected, but all the furniture was gone. Obviously something was up, and I began to feel very tense. I don't mind scary things, but I hate jump scares, and this was screaming with red flags. I walked upstairs and interacted with the computer room door. I can't enter, but instead a symphony of obnoxious beeps and noises are triggered. This is actually Morse code for a greater mystery, but we will touch on that at the end. Walking back downstairs, you can find the clock moved from its normal position by the staircase to the center of the room. You walk up to it, and it begins to chime. There's nothing left to do but wait, and once it hits 12 chimes, the game crashes. I expected a new twist once reloading the game, but there was none. The game starts from the very beginning with nothing different. This seems odd, as I felt as if there was so much build-up for no conclusion. Well, that's because this was not the appropriate ending to this branch. Instead of walking down the stairs to see the clock, try jumping over the railing. You will find that the chimes are not triggered, and you can interact with the kitchen door. The screen then goes black, and you are greeted with the data missing screen. This screen appears each time you try to reload the game, so the only thing left to do is to delete the save. If you don't fall off the edge and follow the hidden path, you will find it interactable. Interact with it and return to the chair room. Here you will find a memorial for Muriel Baggs. This disturbingly odd ceremony for her death features a photo of an old woman who shares a resemblance to Muriel from the show. Interact with the photo and the game crashes. Open up the game again and you are in a dark room with 2 spotlights. One is shining on you and the other is slightly in the distance. Trying to run towards it just sends courage off the edge and you crash. Each reload brings you right back here, so there must be a way to reach the chair. Eventually, you see that within the darkness lies a path. This path is completely invisible, so you must go off timing to figure out the route. I tried for a while to make my way through this maze, but I couldn't even get close. I eventually took a look at the comment section of the download page to see if anyone had any tips. Someone suggested turning on a shader modifier to expose the path, so I decided to give that a try. I downloaded Reshader and started up the game, and there we go. Not sure why my screen got cut in half, but now we are able to see the true path. I know I cheated, but I honestly think that the developers intended for users to complete this maze by cheating. The maze is highly complex, and there's no way to tell the exact direction you are facing. The maze even splits off into fake paths to stump users. I eventually reach the center spotlight, and interacting with the chair causes my game to crash yet again. I'm pretty much used to this by now, so I restart the game and find myself at the Bag's household with coins cluttering the floor. These coins actually share the same pattern as the circle around the chairs previously seen. We collect these coins and find something unsettling. A second player has appeared, and it's Muriel Baggs. We don't see her, but can feel her presence. I think that's what I love about this game. Most of its tense moments come from the fear of what may happen, not what does. We finish collecting the coins when suddenly the background music changes and Muriel's face gets distorted and darkened. The screen goes black and we are treated to another data missing screen. Doing all the same steps as stage 2, players can make their way back to the spotlight room. Instead of choosing the left path, we find that there is a separate path that branches off to the right. This path is more direct and seems somewhat logical for a player to figure this route out in the dark. This path leads to a bright light with an interactable. Interacting with it takes courage to a dark room. You can't see anything and are forced to just walk in mindless directions until you stumble across a house. Not sure if this was a bug or intentional, but we are not able to turn the camera in the opposite direction here. Seems weird as I don't see any reason to do this here, so I'm leaning towards a bug. The house is dark and gloomy, but choosing to venture behind it, you will find it's flat, almost as if it's a cardboard cutout. Behind the house, you will find a portrait of Robert Wheeler, with his picture ripped on the bottom and a knife through the head. Interacting with it crashes the game, and you reload back at the Bag's household. Venturing upstairs greets you with the mini cutscene. A shadow figure with Robert Wheeler's head slowly walks towards you. You are unable to move and simply must accept anything that happens. The figure reaches you and gives the player the final data missing screen. For the most part, this is pretty much the game as of now, but players have a feeling that there is still one last piece we are missing. I know you all must have some questions, so let's break down the mystery we have behind this game. Remember how I said the first branch had a Morse code section? Well, that translates to learn the way of the old wind. This phrase, old wind, comes up quite a bit in the files of the game. Going into the data logs, we find a file called .text with the phrase, "She followed the rules, he broke the rules, the O blank W blank was all the way to the right." It's obvious that the missing words are old wind, but what could that mean? I try to find any connection to this phrase in the show, or maybe a literary work, but no worthwhile results were found. The name of the EXE to run Courage, the video game, is titled Courage OW. I think it's safe to say that OW stands for Old Wind, but there is no direct reason for this title. At least, not one that's discovered yet. Now, what's up with these data missing screens? They must have some further meaning, and they do. If you mess with the colors and move the saturation and lighting up, you can find some hidden phrases in these photos. One says, "It was Eleanor." The second one is, "Father wasn't home." And the third one was, "Mr. Wheeler was there to greet me." All very mysterious and odd phrases, but who even is this Mr. Wheeler? Another mystery that has no apparent or obvious answer to. I've tried searching the name with different variations of Robert, such as Bobby or Bob, but no results that match the man in the game. Now, I just want to note one thing. Looking back at the photo of Robert Wheeler, we'll see that it's cut out after the W. The original producer of Courage the Cowardly Dog is Robert Winthorpe, so it would make sense for that to be him. But I've tried searching everywhere and I could not find a single picture of Robert Winthorpe, and the assets files for his face is labeled as Real Wheeler. So I'm unsure if Wheeler is supposed to be a different name for Winthorpe, or if this is a whole new person entirely, but we'll refer to him as Wheeler from now on. If you recognize this man from anywhere, feel free to let me know in the comments below. So far, the community has uncovered almost all the contents of the game, except for one mystery. See, before each crash intended in the game, the save file gets updated to spawn users at a new location when necessary. The entire compiled code is gibberish with the exception of some English phrases, such as the time, was good, and I don't. All these create a phrase that says, "Do you remember a time when the world was good and fair?" I don't. Now we see all these combination of phrases appear at different points in the game's save file, except for the words, "do you." Well, manually typing this phrase and loading the game brings players to a grayed out box of the Bag's household. There's nothing to do here, and the computer is interactable, but nothing happens when pressed. The method of reaching this point is unknown, but there is one theory. Remember the phrase, old wind? Well, going back to the chair room, we can see that it is possible to spell this phrase through the pattern on the floor. The problem is we don't know which direction to start in when spelling the phrase, since the chairs are in a circle. There are two interactables at the spawn of the chair room that have no meaning. One possible theory is you must return to this interactable after spelling each letter of Old Wind to lock in the phrase. But it's hard to test since we don't know which angle to start with. This is the current point that the community is stuck at. There's plenty of questions still remaining, such as who is Mr. Wheeler, what does Old Wind mean, and how to reach this hidden fourth ending. If you want to explore this game and give a stab at solving the mystery, I will leave a link in the description. If you have any knowledge on possible solutions or see something that I don't, let me know in the comments. The game is currently being updated as the creators say this yard salesman actually has a second hard drive with more Courage content on it. Okay, I'll go along with the story. So there is still more to come. I will be making another video on this again once the game gets updated. So if you want to see me cover that, feel free to subscribe and turn on notifications. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you all next time.